Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Triangular Compass. This is our podcast where we talk about all sorts of different alternative healing modalities that we might be able to utilize in rejection of the status quo. My name is Will Wisner. I am the host for this episode. And joining me today is our good friend of the foundation, someone we just have enjoyed so much working with over this past year, I guess now, our friend Dr. Scott Koeneman, who is a very interesting man in many ways, one of which because he is the practitioner of a very incredible modality called QHHT. So, Scott, welcome to the show, and do you mind telling everybody what QHHT is?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Will.
Yeah, man.
I love coming here and talking to you. QHHT means Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. It is a technique founded by a woman named Dolores Cannon, over her 40-plus long-year career, and it is a technique where we can put someone into the theta state under hypnosis, the theta brainwave state, and they can experience a different life than what they're having now. You call it a past life. Some people go to the future, some people go to other dimensions, but normally we call it past life regression. And so QHHT is a method of past life regression, and it's a beautiful technique where, it doesn't matter who the client is. Anybody can get under hypnosis and relive something that their soul has experienced already, or perhaps will experience later, and garner lessons and learnings from it. And then beyond that, we call in what's called the higher self. This is at the end of every session. And so we get to ask the questions that a client might have. So a client might ask, why do I suffer with anxiety or depression? Or why does my hip hurt? Or, and it's incredible that this technique can explain those things to them. And in many cases, even put them on the path or get those clients healing during the session. So that is the technique.
So a remarkable claim right there that we are able to transcend time and space and move forward in time or backward in time into lives that perhaps we had. I mean, this all sounds very fantastical and, pretty crazy. But, I'm sure everybody that is listening to this podcast today or watching it has probably heard of some celebrity or in a show, somebody's talking about undergoing past life regression hypnosis and, and the stories that surround that. So you are one of those practitioners that actually does that, which I'm sure most people have heard of, but I've never met anybody that does that until I met you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And, I sort of like the weird.
Yeah, it's fun.
I came into this work as a complete normie. And my journey into this is just the most minor aspect. But I can empathize with someone who might be listening and saying, oh, yeah, right, past lives. Well, 2 billion people in the world, depending upon what region of the world you're in, if you're Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, they believe in reincarnation. And so it's not really that outlandish.
It's not weird to them. Yeah, no. Right?
This would be like a Tuesday for them. They're like, oh, yeah, past lives.
Yeah. Figured out how to do that. Wow. Yeah.
Right. So it's not really new and novel in that aspect. I think it's new and novel in the West, and less so as the years go on. Less so as the more exposed people become to modalities like this.
Well, yeah, and to tell you straight up, Scott, man, when I first was learning about what this is, like, come on, past life regression by hypnosis. After learning about it and understanding kind of what the experience is and the philosophy behind it of what they're saying, how the hypnosis works. This is extremely similar to several topics that I am very fond of, the shamanic and animistic cosmologies and traditions of indigenous peoples from across the planet. What they would understand, is that spirit world or, people that are into the psychedelic scene might refer to as hyperspace. It sounds like all these things are kind of the same thing. And I know that when you talk about the theta wave, that's basically giving a name to what this is we're experiencing. So can you explain what the theta wave state is and what it's doing and how these experiences are even possible?
Absolutely. So let's say you just close your eyes for a minute and just get quiet. When you just close your eyes and get quiet, or let's say you're intently concentrating on something, you enter what's called the alpha state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in increasing levels of relaxation and concentration, we go deeper. So beyond alpha, you get into the theta state. Theta state is a more relaxed state still than alpha. And this is the state, this is sort of the event horizon, the hyperspace, as you put it. And in this state, you can access a soul's past lives, future lives, whatever the case may be. And the beauty of the technique is that we call it the higher self, whoever's in charge of the theta state, your subconscious, whatever you want to say, your subconscious picks the most appropriate lifetime for you to experience during your session. I'm not picking it. You're not picking it. Your subconscious is picking that life. So if you have a pressing issue on your mind, maybe you're struggling with chronic pain or anxiety, while I'm interviewing you during a session, before we even put you under hypnosis, your subconscious is already flipping through the Rolodex of lives that it's had and says, well, I think Will needs to remember what it was like to be at Antietam or something like that. Or I think Will should remember what it was like to be X, Y, or Z circumstance that is relevant to whatever you're facing today. Oftentimes it's a story about related to the hero's journey, where you're struggling with something in the present, you're shown something in the past that was even more intense, and yet you overcame it still, and then remembering that gives you strength and the ability to continue in the present.
This theta wave state, I mean, is this the spirit world? Is that what we're to assume that this is? So this is moving us into an altered consciousness to the spirit world?
Yes, that is definitely one way of looking at it.
What are the other ways of looking at it?
Maybe it depends on your modality of choice. You can call it the spirit world. You can call it hyperspace. You can call it the astral plane. You can call it maybe accessing the Akashic records. There's different names for what we're doing here, but we are accessing the database that is that client's soul. And we were looking at all of the different journeys that soul has been on. And we're picking one, not we, as in me or you, but your oversoul is picking one thing for you to remember that day in a session, something that's very important to you. And we're bringing that forward so that you can learn from it. And in that way, it has importance, because maybe it's a life where in the present, you're struggling with chronic headaches. I had a client who was struggling with chronic headaches, severe headaches. In the past, when we got her under hypnosis, she remembered being a Native American woman bought and sold in a form of slavery known as peonage. And I'm saying the word Peonage. It's a little understood aspect of American history. And it did not go away with the Emancipation Proclamation. It didn't go away until like the 1920s is when it finally started disappearing.
And what is this?
This is where this is an aspect in history where tribal villages would experience people coming into their village and kidnapping people out of them and then keeping them and raising them as housekeepers.
Yeah. So the Vikings are doing it, the Celts are doing it, the Romans are doing it. Right. Okay, I got it.
And it's not something that's talked about that much. And so this,
it's cross-cultural, so it shouldn't be no big surprise. Yeah.
Right. After I was researching it afterwards, the only thing I was more surprised about is that, it's not something that we talk about that much. We talk about the slavery issues that we're familiar with, like with the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil Rights Act, but we don't often talk about peonage.
There's probably a lot of things that were happening pre-Columbus.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so during one of the transactions where this woman was being bought and sold, she put up a struggle and got knocked on the head, right where my finger is pointing right here. And in this life, she was born with a strawberry hemangioma birthmark right there. And when we called in this subconscious, the oversoul, to answer the question, the connection, it confirmed that she has the headaches in the present life because of the struggle she put up in the past. But it showed her that to remind her that she overcame it, and that
How did she overcome it?
Well, in that past life, she outlived her captors.
Oh, okay.
And gained her freedom that way. So, it was one of those things. It's very tragic, yes, but she survived all of it. And
so, okay, so incredible stories. So now
Yes.
let's go back and rewind the conversation a bit to back when you were telling me how you were a normie coming into this. Like, how did you come into contact with this type of a practice?
Okay, so read a book called The Secret History of the World by Mark Booth. Changed my life. I'm a book reader. I like to read, and that book taught me things that I was hitherto not aware of at the time, like that the elites teach their children that reincarnation is real, and that the world religions are by and large constructs of theirs,
Okay.
used for control. But the reincarnation aspect is real, and this is what is taught to their children. This is what is written about in this book. So my mind was being blown. I'm just a normie Western dude raised in a Christian church, and now I'm reading about this thing that is just real. This guy's just stating it matter of fact. This is what the elites teach their kids. Reincarnation is real. They dominate the world with these pieces of knowledge that we take for granted, like that mind came before matter. That doesn't sound that groundbreaking, but to me, who came up the public school system, you're taught, no, it was the primordial soup. Matter came before, matter came after mind. I mean, matter came before mind. So reading this book opened my eyes.
So it sounds like the point of the book is explaining the transmission of the ancient mystery schools then? Is that what?
Correct.
Okay. That's where I thought we were. This sounded familiar to me. All right. So do you want to explain what that is to anybody that's not familiar with that term?
Ancient mystery schools, places like Giza, Greece, Far East, Tibet, they had wise teachers that taught knowledge to a select group of students there. You had to be initiated into these mystery schools to acquire the knowledge of these mystery schools. And the collective knowledge of these mystery schools is what is taught to these children of the elite.
So now we're going to be going down an extra weird rabbit hole for our Triangular Compass episode today, because all that's true, but it's, let's connect the dots for the audience that may not know and just call this thing for what that sounds like, what we're talking about. So, the ancient Egyptians had their mystery school, wherever they may have got that wisdom from. They pass it to the Greeks, who pass it to the Romans, who ends up somehow eventually through the early Middle Ages ends up with the Templars, and then on to the Masons. And now we're talking the Bilderbergs and the New World Order and all of those things that are receiving the same information. All right, so just making sure that for those that dig this kind of stuff, which I do, I think this stuff is fun and exciting. It's definitely a way to look at the world.
Yeah, the mystery schools evolved into the secret societies.
That's right. There we go. That's a great summary.
Yes, and I appreciate you mentioning that. But as part of that, there's this dichotomy between the things that my children learn in the school system and the things that their children learn. And I just thought as a parent, it was interesting to know the difference. That's why I picked up the book. I didn't know it was going to lead me into this world of past life regression hypnosis. Because if reincarnation is real, that means that we have all lived before, and I couldn't put that notion aside. I needed to understand more about it. And that led me to Dolores Cannon, to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And
did you find her specifically because you were looking for past life information? And
yes.
Okay, so that was, what time frame was this? Was something you were looking up on the internet, or something you had to...
I believe this was like right as COVID was getting hot and angry across the world.
Oh, okay. So about 4 or 5 years ago. All right.
Yeah. And
hell, 5, 6 years ago now, I guess.
Time gets away from us, right?
Yeah, sure does.
And so I embarked on an internship. That's why I wrote this book, Quantum Intern. Right? This is about my many mistakes that I made during my first year, and yet the different mind-blowing sessions that I had that forever changed my outlook on life.
Yeah, probably everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And the forgiving thing about the technique is that even as an intern, someone who practices imperfectly, because you're an intern, you still have these amazing results and these unforgettable times with your clients. And not only is your client getting the therapy, but you sort of feel like you're getting it too by administering all these sessions, and you're learning along with them.
That is fascinating. So you found Dolores Cannon and jumped in with both feet. So what is that training like?
Okay, so it's a lot of Dolores has passed now, right? So she has a series of masterclass videos that she was able to create before she passed on. So you're learning directly from Dolores Cannon, especially for the first part of the training, and you're watching her perform the sessions, and she's, videotaped with a room full of students, and she's talking about why I'm doing this, why I'm doing that. So there's a lot of observing and doing that. And then it comes time for you to practice. And this is, I think, where people will decide to make the leap or not, right? Like, okay, I just saw this really cool thing, but am I really going to do it? Am I really going to practice on my friends and family?
Right.
Am I really going to do this? I did. I really did it because...
Hey, Uncle Tom, I want to come over here and get you to go explore your past lives. Like,
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And there was some of those sessions that were like, oh yeah, right, you can't hypnotize me. There's some stigmas about hypnotism that we interns are prepared to sort of tackle.
Yeah.
One of them is, hypnosis. You can't hypnotize someone who's too stubborn about being hypnotized. They're right? Because if you don't want to be hypnotized, nobody in the world can hypnotize you, right? It takes a willing client. And so I was blessed during my internship to at least have people that were willing,
open-minded, to let you do your thing. Yeah, which probably built confidence and all the things that go along with it. Sure,
absolutely. But then that was just the event horizon. That was just the stepping off point. Then things started getting convoluted, and we're prepared for the convoluted nature of some of these regressions in the training, but experiencing them live is different. So I think my third session, I had a gentleman who came up out of hypnosis, and he was doing this with his hand. He's right-handed. He's doing this with his hand. So I gave him my notebook, and he sketched a picture of this Civil War general. He's like, this is who, the best I can draw him. This is who I was in that life. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. That looks really detailed. And with that picture and these other notes that I took during your session, I now have something I can go look up in the historic record, because I came from a research heavy background. And so I love when I can find something to go look up, or I love when I have information that I can go look up. And so I said, okay, great. I didn't tell him I was going to go do a bunch of research afterwards. Mm-hmm. So this third time I ever tried this client came up out of hypnosis, and he was doing this with his hand. So I gave him my notebook, and he sketched a picture. That and the other details that this client gave me, I was able to go and find a general that matched those historic facts. His name is General David Hunter. And I found not only the battle details that this person was giving me, but I found, the regions he was deployed to, all the way down to his wife's name, the horse that he had, and this whole bunch of other details just matched. And I'm sat there at my computer, and my jaw was just like, wow, I'm an intern. And I just found, in my opinion, what is most likely definitely this gentleman's past life, and it's this obscure Civil War general named David Hunter that you sort of have to be a Civil War buff to know anything about. And I remember thinking at that point, okay, I'm in. Like, maybe that was given to me as a validation of the course that I was on, because maybe I was skeptical and still wondering if I was really going to do this. And then along comes General David Hunter, and now I know. It satisfied my curiosity. Now I know, in a way that I didn't know before, that these aren't just things in somebody's imagination, which would be fine even if it was just things in someone's imagination. But now I see it in the real historic record. And that's when I knew this is the thing that I'm going to do.
So when these people are having these experiences of these past lives, these regressions, what What is that experience like for them? I guess, what are they seeing? Like, do they have an understanding of just a window in time, the minutes that they're living through their eyes, or is it like an understanding of what their whole life was like? And what is that?
Everyone's a little different. Some people are in, and it's like they're an avatar in a scene, and they're navigating around, just like you and I would walk around a scene today, or walk around a store, or walk around a battlefield. They're doing that. Other people get feelings and impressions, or a mix between the two, and both are fine. Some people watch it from a bird's eye view. But normally what happens is people get into the past life and they are integrated fully into their past life persona. And you notice a dialect change where instead of saying there is X, Y, or Z, they start saying I see X, Y, or Z. They have assumed the identity of the past life persona entirely. And so I refer to them and talk to them as such, right? So they become the Civil War general. They become the person bought and sold under peonage. They relive that in the present. That's what's quantum about it.
Is there a takeaway that these people experience when they come back out of the session, that they're like, okay, I understand why I saw that. This answers this problem in my life. Like, well, why would someone want to do this? What is the therapeutic benefit to this?
Because there is most likely a reason that their subconscious picked that life for them to see. Normally it's a circumstance that they are facing in the present. They're facing a major decision, or they're at a major crossroads. They want to know what they should do. Well, knowing how you handled a similar situation in the past is often very helpful for those clients. And so oftentimes the SC will pick the most appropriate life from the past for them to bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, if there's a healing that maybe needs to happen, someone has a chronic pain, as I said before, a headache, or their hip hurts. We can get answers from the subconscious or oversoul after we've run through the whole past life scenario, and we take them through that final death scene, because we take them through the death scene and they're on the other side of it. Then we bring in the subconscious to say, okay, now explain to us why we were shown these things. And the subconscious tells us. And that's where the dots are connected.
It's fascinating. So the client then is telling you, well, this is why I experienced this. So they're just integrating it outright in the moment. That's integration.
Absolutely.
And is there what are the benefits that you see from this? With the chronic pain, does it go away? What happens with those physical type of parts of the story here?
Yeah. Have definitely witnessed physical healings take place. Also blew my mind. And it happened during my internship. It's not like I was a super seasoned practitioner, but the technique is so beautiful that healings can happen. Is it guaranteed? No. Some people choose to have a particular issue or pain or circumstance in their life. It's karmic, if you want to put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that they chose it is oftentimes healing for these clients. Oh, well, that's why. I picked it. And we can get those answers from the subconscious. So if it's not something that they've picked, or and it's not anything tied to an unrealized karmic pain or
Mm-hmm.
karmic issue, then yeah, oftentimes there is healing, if it is appropriate for the client to experience the healing.
So for our veterans and first responders and those folks in our audience that are dealing with issues like post-traumatic stress,
Mm-hmm.
they want to come to a past life regression hypnosis session. What is that going to do for that person that's potentially due? I suppose nothing's ever foolproof, I guess, but what's the benefit?
So it would be very down to the individual on what the benefit is. I can say that from the different veterans that I've regressed, first of all, each one is completely different. But when it comes to anxiety and PTSD, oftentimes I find that clients are shown issues in the past where they also did not trust anything outside of themselves and tried to control everything. This is, in our world, anxiety is a wanting to control all of one's circumstances. beyond what any human can do. It's a control. And when you can't control everything, you get anxious, right? That's what it is metaphysically anyway. And so those clients are illustrated that concept in a past existence, or maybe a future existence, or an extra dimensional existence, whatever. But then when we bring it back to the subconscious, it'll explain exactly that. It's sometimes you can't control everything. And they really illustrated that concept in a way that they couldn't grasp before. Because I can just say that to somebody. But if you are re-experiencing a very similar circumstance that you have in the present, but you're experiencing it in the past, there's something therapeutic about that. And it's down to the individual to determine what and how much healing there is in a situation of that nature.
Right. So, I wanted to kind of expand on there. You'd said other dimensions or other dimensional lives, or however it was that you phrased that.
Yeah.
But, that really kind of takes us into the next level of this thing. This theta wave, whatever this theta wave is more than just going into past lives. This is what? You said it's the astral plane. It's the, the hyperspace, the spirit world. What all is possible there? I mean, do you see things other than just going into past lives when these clients are going into this theta wave? Yes.
So for the first part of the question, you asked, what is theta? Well, beyond me just saying it's the state beyond alpha,
right?
I can tell you that it is the spot where all of us share the same theta state. Mm-hmm. So my theta state's the same as your theta state, the same as everybody we know's theta state.
And that's demonstrable. I mean, I don't know anything whatsoever about any of that. So, I mean, it's like that people have researched that, and so your theta state is exactly the same as this person's? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So if I put you under hypnosis, you could potentially answer questions about someone you don't know, a complete stranger. Dolores Cannon illustrated this many times in her works.
This is like some men who stare at goats kind of stuff, where now we're projecting to Mars. Is this part of that?
Actually, I have a chapter in my book called The Martian Gardener.
Okay.
And so,
but there might be something connecting here. I wasn't sure. So, yeah, please enlighten me.
Well, before we move on from the theta state is the all-knowing state. It's the part of you that has all the answers about everything about you, everything you ever were, everything you ever will be. It knows you in the past, present, and future completely and wholly. It's the part of you that you can keep no secrets from, because it is the ultimate you. So ultra will. So your theta state is ultra will. My theta state is ultra Scott. But the wavelength connects us all. And so that is why the QHHT is so helpful for people, because it doesn't matter really what experiences someone has had when you get them into the theta state, because anything is possible in the theta state. And because your subconscious has only your best intentions at heart. Accessing the theta state becomes very therapeutic, because you get all the answers in plain English.
So if you're in the theta state, and from the theta state you enter into these past lives, and if we all have a shared theta state, is it really your past life, or can you enter any past life or future life? It sounds like you're just basically jumping into, you're quantum leaping into someone else's body.
I love that we're waxing philosophic there, because I asked those questions myself. My impression is that it's my question that's irrelevant.
Right.
It's my question, because if you can put yourself in the sort of the mindset of the all-knowing theta state, where everything kind of blends together, everyone's lives, everyone's experiences is in a shared state, then this concept of individual souls is less meaningful.
Right. I mean, it sounds like you're on an ayahuasca experience is what that sounds like, because that's very common with ayahuasca and those types of modalities, where you have these understandings of exactly that. We're all connected. We are all one, as the Lakota say. So Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. So what else have you seen or is accessible from this theta state that's not just, and not to minimize going back into somebody else's reality, but what other types of experiences are there to be had in this theta wave state that is what you have seen?
Okay, so one phenomenon that I think is sort of incredible is what I loosely call bridging.
Okay, what's
establishing a quantum bridge between the present client and their past personality. So it would be, for example, if I had you under hypnosis, let's say you were reliving a life as a Native American, and you were spiritually inclined. And so you went off into the woods one day to meditate, to be by yourself. And during your meditation, you were envisioning a future lifetime because they believed in reincarnation. You were envisioning a future lifetime in your meditation where you came to a QHHT practitioner for a session and you remember talking to yourself from the future. That I've had that happen where the past directly links to the client in the present. And this enables me to ask questions to almost live to the past life persona. You know, that is difficult to describe in words because it's like you're talking through a time machine, a time portal into someone that actually is with you live, real time on their version of a theta telephone, and they can just answer questions for you in plain English. So there's bridging. Bridging happens. Dolores Cannon wrote about this in, she wrote several books about Nostradamus, where she was able to establish this bridge, Nostradamus. So that's something that I've seen. Other things I've seen, extra-dimensional lives. But when you get into the space between lives, I think is very interesting as a practitioner. So we take you through the death scene in the past life. Well, now you're out of the body, and now you're on the other side of it. What then? And I think the thing that sort of shocks people is that it's never really exactly the way that they'd imagined it. There's often guides or guardians or guardian angels, depending on one's religious proclivities, yes. But then they'll get to a space where they review that life. They're doing a life review. They're saying, okay, how did Scott do in that lifetime? He had, 15 items on his checklist in this lifetime. Okay, well, he hit 12 of them, so there's still 3 outstanding. Okay, he's almost done. He's almost graduated, ready to move on, but we still got to tick these last 3 check boxes. So now we're going to plan another life. And so that happens, those discussions happen in the space between lives. And people find that very interesting too. So the bridging phenomenon that I talked about, and then the space between lives phenomenon I just discussed, that's sort of what else you come across in these sessions.
Wow. So that is a lot to ponder. And how long is a session?
They are not short. They are long.
Yeah. So when you're does it take a long time to put somebody into that kind of hypnosis, or?
It's not the hypnosis itself that takes the most time. It's the interview. And so I think this is where a lot of the therapy comes in, especially for the veteran community, is that they get to come in, talk to me for 5-6 hours sometimes before we ever put them under hypnosis. I'm getting their entire life story. And I want to know it all. And I want them to talk. And that's how I build trust and rapport with them. Because now I know your circumstance. I know what you've been through, at least in the way that you've described it to me. But in describing it to me, there's therapy. A lot of people just aren't heard. And so I sit and I listen very intently, very actively. I ask questions. And then after we get through that, there's oftentimes a lot of yawning, a lot of stretching. I can tell they're ready for the hypnosis, right? Hypnosis happens really easily. That portion's about 2 hours. And then we talk for an hour afterwards. So you're talking about a 5 to 7 hour session. So it's not a quick thing.
But it's about 2 hours of the experience itself, it sounds like.
Yes. But in order to have that, you have to do the extensive interview. Because if a person's not willing to open up, hypnosis doesn't happen.
So your clients come back for more than one visit?
I have had repeat clients. But
So are those also long sessions? I mean, or is there a need to do the 5 hours of prep, or do you just get down to business and go straight into the hypnosis?
About the fastest interview piece that we do is about 2 hours. Even if I've seen someone before, I'll still do at least a 2-hour interview. So you do a 2-hour interview, 2-hour hypnosis, 1 hour afterwards.
So is that just catching up on how things have been, or what do you do with that time?
That's catching up on how things have been.
Okay, so I mean, you're in some ways here, man. You're doing talk therapy with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then the hypnosis is really unlike. I mean, it's a fascinating modality, and I definitely want to do this with you at some point. I'd love to have this experience, and then come back on the show and talk about what the experience I had. You can help me unpack that. Maybe we could do that as an episode upcoming. All right. Well,
I'm happy to give you a session. So I'd love for you to have it.
So how do you hypnotize someone?
How? It is a state of mind the person is willing to be in first.
So I mean, you always see the guy with the pocket watch and and all that. Is that a thing?
No, that was maybe in the 60s and 70s, when people were just getting started with hypnotizing people. No, that's not really how hypnosis is done in the modern day. That's more for film and cinema.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is the receptiveness of the person. If they trust you, if they trust me to lead them on a journey, then they'll have a journey. Right?
So how is this different? I mean, it's clearly the results are not even the same thing, but like I've been to the comedy show where the guy hypnotizes the audience and makes the one guy quack like a duck every time somebody says his name, Bob, or whatever the thing is. What are they doing with those people on a stage, and how is that different from what you're doing with this type of therapy work?
So those entertainment hypnosis people, my understanding is, maybe they might correct me, my understanding is they don't go past alpha, right? Because how could you? You're sitting in a chair, you're in front of a live studio audience, your guard is up, right? You're not getting much past the alpha state. So you're in a lighter state of trance normally. That's the big material difference. A QHHT session, we're going deeper. We're going into the relaxed theta state. So that's the key difference.
Now, are these type of practitioners aware that they can take people into the theta wave state? Are they taught not to do that it's dangerous? Or like, why isn't every hypnotist that I've ever seen on television, not doing this?
Probably, it's a lot of work, right? It's not fast. There's a lot of emotions involved. So that's not something you're looking for if you're looking to bark like a dog or, walk like a duck. That's not what you're signing up for. But the hypnosis modality as QHHT, the whole healing aspect of it is much more in depth than what you're going to get at a entertainment hypnosis or a comedy show.
But meaning the practitioner themselves, the guy that's doing the stage show, can he take people into the theta wave?
Probably. He's probably well aware of how he could do that, but he would probably know it's going to take a few more hours.
Yeah. So they're probably doing it at home with their buddies on the weekends.
Probably. I'd be my guess if they're trained. I'm not an entertainment hypnosis person.
Could you do that? Could you do what the magicians do?
I'm not even sure I want to try, but maybe.
I tell you what, man, you need to come in on Fridays when we do the IW podcast, and we'll have you hypnotize Hugh Tyson.
Oh, that's funny.
And we'll get him to, bark or something weird.
That's just funny.
See if we can make that take.
Relaxation is the biggest part of it. And so if you're not relaxed, you're not hypnotized. Right? That's just the bottom. That's just the way it is.
Interesting. So, okay. So now we've got this big buildup. So how is this applicable to our program and our work that we do with you with the triangular compass? Could you connect the dots for us here on this amazing modality that we're talking about today?
So in terms of another service that I offer in terms of hypnosis is we do group regressions.
Yes.
And
now these I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Group regressions are an introduction to the modality. They take people into alpha where they maybe dip slightly down into theta, but we're not trying to go super deep. I'm not interviewing 20 to 30 people for 6 to 7 hours. I'm not doing that. It's more of a group function. And so that's, I think, where my work connects with Triangular Compass and these integration camps that you guys are.
Yeah, that's where I had the time to actually experience a group session that you ran, and that was really something. And it wasn't that terribly long of a session. How long did that take? An hour and a half, maybe?
Yeah, about an hour and a half. And the whole point of that is to train you in visualization.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will prompt you to see things, to feel things, and then, so you'll see a static image of a tree, for example.
Yeah.
But then you'll find that maybe your mind animates the tree in a certain way that I didn't tell you. And that's a dip down into the theta state.
Really?
Yeah. So when you're seeing the pictures in your mind, it's like reading a book.
Okay.
If you're in alpha and, I tell you to see a green tree, lots of leaves, well, your mind might put in something else, like, oh wait, there's actually someone taking an axe to that tree in what I'm seeing, or there's a squirrel running up the trunk of the tree. I didn't tell you to see that, but your brain is filling that in. So we're dipping down briefly our toes into alpha to come back up. So when you find things that your mind is filling in that I didn't prompt for, that's briefly getting into theta.
I see. Well, I know that it was definitely an interesting experience. I lost a good chunk of time during that. You walked us through this exercise. I believe it was imagining we were in our homes, and we were looking for a wall where there is no door in real life, but there's a door there in this meditation that you were taking us through. And yeah, that was really something. And then I feel like when I walked through the little door, it's just like a little movie kind of started. And you just went on your own, just like thing happened.
Yep. So you were in I call it snorkeling. You were snorkeling during that group exercise versus the full-on QHHT session where we're one-on-one. Now we're scuba diving. Now we're diving deep into that imagery that came across.
That's very interesting. And it's not unlike what my experiences with ayahuasca has been. It was very similar to me.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I know a lot of people that have done ayahuasca, and they talk about how similar the two things are in terms of that.
I want to check this thing out I want to go scuba diving and see if we can figure out some connections here, because it is quite fascinating. Now, for people that are interested in this as some kind of a therapy, who is the perfect model person that would benefit from this type of modality? Like, we deal with a lot with like anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress, like what are the indicators, like, what this would be good for you versus maybe try something else.
So my way of thinking, there's something in QHHT for everyone, but for the veteran community, yes, if you're suffering from PTSD, anxiety, stress, there is likely a message behind it for you in QHHT, an unread email, if you will, either from the past, future, other dimension, whatever. Once you open up that email, now you've received whatever message you're supposed to get.
Gotcha.
And the message is almost never, well, life just sucks, so deal with it. Like, that's almost never the message. There's a reason.
Okay.
And knowing the reason is very therapeutic, especially for the PTSD, anxiety community.
Is it lesson? Have you seen that lesson, people with anxiety and PTS, where it's had a demonstrable effect?
Yes, but it's different for every person down to the individual level.
Yeah, sure.
I've done QHHT sessions with Marine Corps veterans, Army veterans, and they're very different. But the lessons, the common thing between them, Will, is when they see the past life, they're often shown very similar circumstances. And so once they see that they've been through this before, they recognize that they're repeating a pattern. Pattern recognition is, I think, one of the big benefits for the veteran community. If they can understand, and it's not true for everybody, but if they are on a pattern, so let's say they've had 10 lives where they've repeated the same pattern over and over again. Maybe it's an abusive relationship. Maybe it's being taken advantage of, or maybe it's being too trusting, or whatever it is. They can see a pattern between the past and the present. And it gives them the presence of mind when they come out of it to be like, now I can
make
see
a change.
The pattern. Yeah. It's pattern recognition. We all have pattern recognition ability, but just put QHHT helps put the pattern in front of them so they can recognize it.
Then you know what to do.
They know what to do.
I see. That's amazing, man. It's very fascinating. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah. So now before we wrap up and we explain how people can connect to this modality in their areas where they may live, I also know that you have a book. We mentioned it earlier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book and where you can find it and what it's all about and what's the idea behind it?
So it's called Quantum Intern Year 1. This is a sort of a humbling book for me to write and share with you guys because it's showing all my nasty mistakes that I did while trying to learn Dolores Cannon's technique. It's showing my imperfect sessions. And I call out my mistakes in many places where, I say I shouldn't have done this or I should have did this better. So in a way, from someone who's interested in the modality, it's almost like you can read the book and see that I was in the same place.
Right.
I was too an intern once, and I made these mistakes. And so if new interns that are practicing the technique want to avoid the mistakes that I made, they can read the book and realize, oh, well, now I know what to do. Maybe they can avoid some of the mistakes I made. So there's that aspect. But truthfully, this book has something for everybody in it. If you're just curious about past lives, future lives, extra dimensional stuff, that's all in this book. I had those sessions in here. There's a chapter at the end of the book called The Architect, that's how the book ends. The book begins with a chapter called The General, and it goes in the order of increasingly convoluted stuff, right? So every time we turn the chapter, now we're like deeper down the rabbit hole until we finally get to The Architect. And The Architect is still one of my most convoluted sessions ever. And the chapter, I know, will blow your mind if you're into this type of knowledge. But without spoiling it, it's someone who we had in the theta state and talked about this simulation that we are in and about his disagreements with his colleagues who were the architects of this simulation. They had a philosophical disagreement on the concept of intervention versus non-intervention. Super interesting. And they're talking about it all like it's the simulation and so you have to read it to figure out, well, what decisions were made? Why is the simulation the way it is? Why is life the way it is? All that's answered, and it's related to quantum physics in here. And if you are someone who maybe isn't ready to dive into that, you'll resonate with the stuff more at the beginning of the book. But once you read each chapter, it's like a new initiation. It's like, okay, now we're diving deeper, right? And I think what sets my book apart from other books in the field, aside from this is when I was first starting, and so I'm transparent about my mistakes, is the research that I put into it. So I told you about the Civil War general, and I was able to find him.
Right.
Well, there's a full bibliography in the back of the book, right? I cite research. So for the skeptics among us, wherever I could find something in the historic record, I have cited it. If I tell you I don't think I've quite made the case, I tell you straight up. I'm not trying to prove reincarnation one way or the other, but I do come from a research background, and that will come across. And one of the most mind-trippy things that I came across is this chapter called The Martian Gardener. Now, if a session goes off world, my first thought was, how am I going to find anything? Historic record. So my initial reaction as an intern was, there's nothing to look up, so why even try? I mean, it wasn't even on Earth. I was wrong. Because in this one session, this orphaned Inuit girl, she decided to go she recalled having ETs visit her village. And they would conduct great healings on the people and everything. But on one of their trips back, they said, does anyone want to come with us to help us on our home world? I'm paraphrasing. They said it much more eloquently. She agreed to go. They take her to Mars. And Mars, at that point, had suffered some type of ecological disaster, some major planet-wide thing. And they were in the middle of a massive remediation effort to bring back plant life to Mars. And so they needed people to tend the soil, to work with plants. She learned to do that telepathy. And the telepathy comes across beautifully in this session. So they would tend to the roots of the plants by laying on hands and doing telepathy. So minor teaser there for if you want to see how incredible the session is. In this woman's present life, she wondered why she always talks to her plants. Well, isn't that an incredibly interesting thing? Well, it's because maybe you used to do it telepathically, and so you like talking.
So now you take all these people all the way through to their death scene, right?
Yep.
So what was their death scene?
Very peaceful. Her death scene was, this is after she had been on this incredible journey, lived a completely fulfilled life, full of purpose, full of love, surrounded by people that she respected and admired. She just loved her work. And so she went out into the garden to her favorite tree and just laid down and left and died, passed away very peacefully, very happy, very content. So that was really cool. Really cool. And that client, when she came out of hypnosis, the serenity that she had was mind-blowing. Right? But here's the thing. In that session, I remember I said, I didn't think I'd find anything to research. Well, she visited a temple on Mars at one point, and it had an Apis bull statue out front.
I'm sorry, a what?
An Apis bull statue. Like if you look up the Temple of Dendera in Egypt, I believe it's the Temple of Dendera, there's a bull statue standing out front of it.
What was it, you said an apist?
APIS, Apis bull.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Apis bull.
They were talking about big monkeys, man. It ain't
Yeah.
philosophy. All right.
Right. And so knowing, I knew a little bit about that topic, and that, at least on Earth, in Egypt at the time, that represented the age of Taurus. Right. So in the book, you'll see me do like the calculations where I say, okay, well, when was the last age of Taurus? Mm-hmm. When could this have happened? So I do that, and I'm able to match that up with what was happening on the astrological stuff that was happening in Mars at the time.
So you're using good keys, like folks like our friend Graham Hancock would employ to narrow down windows and all of that. So it's fascinating. Yeah, I can see where you could make use of these tools. It's really interesting stuff, man.
Then it gets even deeper, where I realized I stumbled across the CIA's declassified Project Stargate.
Yeah.
And I downloaded the documents for it from CIA.gov. You know, trust them. You know, however you feel about them.
Hey, man, Tim's into that stuff. He's he sends me weird stuff all the time.
Yeah,
like, a lot weirder than what we're talking about today. We're talking about some pretty weird stuff.
I included the stuff from Project Stargate in the chapter, but the thing that got me was that they saw the same thing on Mars that this client saw.
Really?
An advanced civilization, ecological disaster.
And not likely that the lady had downloaded the files and was familiar with them before visiting you.
Definitely not. And that is what sort of sets this book apart, is that it's not just about transcripts and what happened during the session. It's now what can I find to corroborate? And some chapters are so convoluted, there's no corroboration. But like that one, I didn't think there would be. But I was surprised. And then having the CIA, their project saw much the same thing that my client saw. Wow. That was mind-blowing.
Very interesting stuff, man. So where can people find your book, first of all?
If you go to Amazon.com, actually, if you go to my website, matrix-hypnosis.com/book, that'll link you right to the Amazon site. Okay. Or you can just search up Quantum Intern Year 1 on Amazon, and it'll come right up for you. That's how you can...
So for people wanting information on how to find a past life regression practitioner in their area using QHHT, what would they do? How do you find somebody?
You can go to a website called QHHTofficial.com. And there's a directory. You can enter your zip code and city and find a practitioner near you.
How many practitioners are in the country?
So there's different levels of practitioners. Few thousand. There's a few thousand spread across the country. Is last time I looked. So there's probably one that's not too far from you. If you want to try a session for free, you would look up an intern, like I was. The intern. You look up an intern, and they won't charge you anything. Now they might make a mistake, like I did many times, but can have great sessions still. So if you want to try a session, I'd recommend you find an intern, and the interns could use the practice. If you want a more experienced hand at it, just look at the directory. So
this is not a terribly difficult bar to overcome to engage with the modality.
it is not.
Fascinating. All right, my friend. I guess you have anything else you want to make sure we cover before we wrap?
Well, we've kind of been down the rabbit hole a bit today. So
it's been a weird one, man. This is the weirdest one I think we've done. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Well, as you can tell, we like things weird here. So
I love it.
It's a little unusual. But, well, good stuff, my friend. Now, also, you are going to be joining us in September, the second weekend in September, up in Troy, Missouri, at the Quiver River State Park. There, it's a National Forest State Campground near Troy, Missouri, just outside of St. Louis, where we will be having our second annual integration event. And you are going to be presenting at that event on QHHT, and you're even going to be running some sessions, I believe. Tell us about what those would look like for those that are interested in participating.
Alpha is the bridge. Beyond alpha, there's a brainwave state called theta. Theta is where the healing takes place. So today, what's on deck for you guys is for you to have your minds and hearts open. And the only thing I need you guys to do is to relax and let the pictures come. Inhale. Exhale.
For those that are interested, I'm going to be doing the group regression hypnosis session. So we're just going into alpha. So if you think QHHT might be something you're interested in, but it's a little weird right now, fine. You come and just do the group session. Where, like I said, we're going to just train you a little bit on visualization. And a lot of people have good experiences during these sessions.
Yeah, when you did it last year, I know there's raves. People were having just the most, and I mean, skeptical people too. That was what made it really interesting, was watching the people come out with these stories of what they had experienced while in your session. So it took me over a year to be able to sit with you there. Well, not quite a year, but it took a while before I actually got to participate in one of those, and it was a lot of fun, and it was different, man. It was an interesting experience, and I am very much looking forward to actually doing the full modality and finding out just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
And I'm excited to do it. And for me, I love introducing this to people because they can understand that getting into that state of concentration into alpha is something that is available to them at any time. Mm-hmm. And doing the visualizations helps sharpen their mind. And they didn't know that they had that ability oftentimes before I just kind of explained. You can visualize and use and weaponize your alpha state for your own benefit. That is what we are doing with the group session. I'm teaching people to weaponize their alpha state for their own benefit.
One more time on your website, just so everybody can track it.
matrix-hypnosis.com/book.
All right, perfect. And we're going to have that in our show notes on everything below this video, wherever you're watching it. And if you're not already following us over at YouTube, you can find us there as well. We've got a tremendous amount of content over on the Grunt Style Foundation YouTube channel. Follow us on our social media. We are on X. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And, of course, you can always find us over at our website at gruntstylefoundation.org. And if you like this content of what we talked about today, please share it with all of your friends and tell them about it. And get them to visit us over at gruntstylefoundation.org as well, so that we can get these types of messages in front of as many people as what we possibly can. So we will see you all next time here on the Triangular Compass. Until then, be good to each other and continue to be the light. Take care. The Grunt Style Foundation continues fighting for those who have served. Support our mission at gruntstylefoundation.org/donate. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and keep moving forward with purpose.